Hey Shae, how are you?
Hi, Rachel. How are you today?
Good, thanks. I want to welcome Shae Otto. She is calling in from southern Indiana. She grew up in Evansville. She has been happily married to her husband Randy for 16 years. She's a stay-at-home schooling mom of two boys, and she has loved arts and crafts since she was a little girl, like many of us. And she doesn't specialize in any one craft, but just dabbles in many. And I think that's something that we all kind of do, and sometimes that's a little overwhelming, right?
Yes, absolutely.
But it's also fun. So, um,
Yes.
we have been doing these excuses for the last few days before our July challenge starts, and we'll be showing this during the July challenge. So, I've been asking everybody to share maybe one of the excuses that kind of called out to you that you kind of lean on when you aren't being creative in your life. Some of the excuses that I mentioned, which one kind of spoke to you?
Absolutely the no time excuse.
Hmm.
Being at home with my children, and I also have two dogs, there's always something that someone needs or something that needs to be taken care of. So finding time for myself can be challenging. And in the same time, I need to make that time. I need to create.
Right.
So it's a balance between those two things, responsibility and what I need to do.
So, have you found any ways on a good day where you've been able to squeeze that time in? Do you have any tips or tricks that have worked, and you just need to try more of that?
What works for me is having crafts available. So I have a bag for the crafts I do the most, and each craft has their own little bag, and that's a carry around bag. So I can pick that up if we're headed to an activity, to a doctor's office, someplace that I'm going to be sitting and waiting.
Right.
I can take that bag, whether it's my stitching, I'll take drawing supplies, or even if I have other small crafty projects. I also keep crafts around in different areas in my house. So if I have 15 minutes and it's right there, I
Hmm.
can do two or three activities. I can stitch for a little while. I can put something collage together very quickly. So I try to keep it available because if I have to go collect things, that's all the time that I have.
Right.
So I can't be collecting things when I want to make time.
Right. Which really was one of the excuses is that, okay, you figure out what you want to do, but you don't know where all your supplies are. So you've overcome that really by compartmentalizing those into tote bags that you can like easily get to, which is great.
Yes, I try to keep it available because usually I don't know when I'm going to have time.
Right.
There are occasions when I'll have an evening that I'm going to go meet up with friends, or I'll have a weekend like Handmade You, where I know I will have a set amount of time. But usually it's something that comes up. Oh, now I have 15 minutes.
Right.
Now I have a half an hour, and so I have to be ready when that time hits.
Right.
So
No, that's great. So I think that I also have been asking everybody when I mention and say cultivating creativity, what does that bring to mind for you?
well, one of the big ones to me, I'm distracted by Facebook. So that's a time sucker for me. It takes more time than I ever planned. But I found that if I fill my my feed with artists, then I'm inspired because they're doing something today and they're posting it. They're working on this stitching today. Oh yeah, I need to get off here and get that done. So I'm inspired by seeing other people that are busy with their art,
Yeah.
and then it reminds me, oh, I need to get on mine too. So that's one way because that's something I enjoy. I enjoy getting on Facebook, seeing what people are doing, but then it also reminds me, okay, I've got to get out of here and get into my crafting. So
Well, that's a
that's one way.
yeah, that's a good way to look at it because I think sometimes when we're looking through everybody's feed, you start feeling bad, like, oh, I should be doing that and I should be doing that, but you have like stopped yourself from that and said, okay, I should be doing that. I'm going to go do that. So that's, I think, one thing that people can do to really cultivate that and be inspired rather than being comparing, right?
I am guilty of comparing, so that's one of my second ones. I can look and see people's work on there, and if I wanted to look at it that way, of wow, I can never do that, it can, I can talk myself into why try it, or even what I do is not good.
Right.
But I have enough times found that sometimes I don't think it's good enough and other people enjoy it. So I've kind of put that aside, and it took a lot of, and every now and then that comes back
Sure.
where I'll think, oh, I can't do anything like that. But mostly it's inspiring. I use that as a way to say, hey, I want to try that. I didn't even know that was a craft out there now. I want to try that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I enjoy seeing what other people are doing and seeing how I can add that to what I know.
That's great. So, and the last question I have for you is really about giving a tip or an idea for people as we're going through July and trying to cultivate that creativity. What is one thing that you can suggest to everybody that they might try or think about as they're coming up with their ideas for July?
I would say the thing that calls to you most. And it doesn't, like, one thing I see is a lot of people that I follow specialize, and that's awesome for them. I can't stay with something that long, and so I have to be okay with myself in jumping around. And so if I try something and it doesn't feel right today, I just put it aside and go to the next thing that feels right. And if I end up jumping around a lot and not really finishing a thing, then I try to give myself the it's okay because you're out here experimenting. So I would say take that pressure off of trying to do something that's not fitting when you start it. Let it be something that you're trying for the fun of trying it and learning something, and then move to the next thing that feels good. Because I hear a lot from people that, well, I tried that and I wasn't any good at it, so then they stop. You know, you can come back to it later or don't come back. If you can tell right away, don't come back. But give yourself that freedom to do what you enjoy doing. That's what I would say.
That's a great bit of advice, because I find, like you, I love all kinds of different things, or I love the idea of them sometimes. Like, I want to be amazing watercolorist, but I haven't really gotten into it. I need to just try it and see if it's something that I want to continue doing. And if not, let it go. Like, it's okay if I'm not, like, into watercolor or, even halfway good at it. It's just that act of trying something new and then seeing if it fits, really, right?
Yes, and I also, like, a lot of people are really excited about a thing, like photography. I have a friend that's very excited about photography, so she reads about it. She takes pictures all the time. She takes classes. She teaches classes, and she's wonderful at photography. And I like it, but I'm not going to put all that time, so I have to be okay with I'm not going to get those results.
Sure.
Because I'm not going to spend a lot of that time because I like to jump to the next thing.
Right.
And so I have to accept that part of me that really loves that, but I don't want to trade time doing something else to develop that. So we don't all have to be experts. We can have fun and go from place to place. In my opinion, I think there's some of us that likes to bounce around. So
right, and we don't. And I love that we don't have to be experts or like the best of one thing. And like you said, those people that are like the best watercolorists and that's all they do, that's awesome, and that's what inspires us to try it, right?
Yes, because my friend, the photographer, she gives me tips all the time, which helps me improve. But I'm not, like, I can't put that time that she puts into it. And I know I can't. I don't want to take it away from her, but I know I can't do that right now. I don't want to right now. But I appreciate when she helps me be better by giving me a little bit of advice here and there. So, yeah, and then that lets me be free to be who I am, which is like to try everything. So
right. So we can be like the best at being good at a lot of things rather than the best at one thing, and we can be okay with that. That's great.
Yes, and be okay with being okay at things.
Right.
Not having to be really good, or just it being okay. Or I'm not doing really well, but I had fun doing it. I was with people doing it, or I was by myself, and that was my quiet time. However, I feel like creativity has to be what reaches that part of you that feels good.
Right.
It doesn't have to be the same for all of us.
Right. And I think that we have to listen to ourselves in if it's feeling good. Like if you're struggling and just really not enjoying the process of one creative like thing or another, whether it's, photography or even like baking for your family, and you just don't like baking, well, that's something you can let go. Just maybe try doing casseroles, or just something different that you'll actually enjoy the process.
Or a different aspect of that. Like if baking's not the thing, maybe placing it on the tray, cutting things up and putting them on cold cuts, or fruits that you can cut. You don't have to bake. Maybe that's the fun thing.
Right.
So stitching is a big area. You don't have to like the hand stitching. You might like machine stitching. Mm-hmm. You might not like machine stitching, but you might like applique by hand, something different. So every field has a lot of area in it to explore. So not getting down on yourself if a particular area isn't for you.
Right.
And just move on if that material. I mean, it's just, there's so many things to try, and sometimes it's just fun trying new things.
Right. Great advice, Shae. Thanks. You for sharing that. I think that will kind of alleviate maybe some pressure that some of us are putting on ourselves to be really great at one thing, that we can just enjoy being creative and lots of different techniques, ideas, and be good with that.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Well, thanks for joining us today, Shae. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.